So Mars Red comes in swinging with Yamagami ending up dead, and I think his death serves quite a few different purposes, but I think what I come out of this episode saying in the most, and my gut reaction, is that Maeda was without a doubt putting on an act in front of his lieutenant because he is devoted to him because he's the one who gave him his life, but when he was saying you're nothing but vampires and pretty much acting like I am your boss, you will do what I say, and you aren't human, it does feel to me that this was a man saying what he had to say in the moment rather than saying what he actually felt. And to have a character like Yamagami who saved him after the earthquake, right? The rubble was upon him. I thought we were going to say, oh, he's going to uncover him. We're going to see a fatal wound, so he drinks the blood and he becomes the last vampire for this insane division unit force. But instead, we had Yamagami with the last bit of his strength because there's this giant piece of stone on top of his legs. His legs are screwed, right? But then again, he has a mechanical arm, so maybe they could also do stuff for that. But the idea that he walks into the sunlight as like this one last goodbye, you could argue, well, he could have just threw it or he could have dropped it a foot away from him. But it almost felt to me like for two different reasons. One, what happened in that room, it did get to him, that he is just a vampire, as if the most human characters that we've seen in terms of basically the people who are hunting the vampires versus the vampires themselves, it feels like almost a lot of the vampire characters that we followed are more human than many of the human characters that we're following. And I think the purpose of Yamagami's death isn't that he had to die, it was that he was choosing to, as if he won't be human anymore. And the fact that, watch me, I'm saving your life. I'm saying you don't need to drink a vial of blood. You don't need to do this in order to survive. I'm going to step in sunlight and be dead. You don't want that for yourself. You are a person. And I think the purpose of his death is to serve as the kind of support, the crutch, so that Maeda, even if he needs mechanical legs, even if most of his body remains mechanical in the future, right? At the very least, he'll be able to walk into that sunlight. He'll be able to, get repairs done, but still keep the core thing that makes him human. The ability to enjoy life, to eat food, to drink what you want, to have pleasures, not just drink blood and feel scared of the sun. And I think that's what makes, the death so compelling and so well written, is that realistically, he could have just dropped the stone in front of him. But based on what was said to him, the realization that, we're fighting to try to keep our humanity, but we never will be human. But I want to prove to you why you don't want to be this. And it's going to be interesting to see because I think if you look at it from a logical point of view, what the lieutenant was saying, it makes total sense. You're saying, okay, I don't want to see more young men die on the battlefield. We've seen this enough. By sacrificing a select group of elite soldiers, we can create the perfect division that is powerful, that will never die, that we have created immortality, that we have a solution, that before we were trying to recruit vampires off the street, but it's a slow burn process that doesn't get the job done. We saw them get defunded, so by making this super division, it makes sense what he's saying, but I also want to side with the Code Zero division saying, that's not what you want. We didn't choose to be vampires, but because we did become vampires, we have a second shot at the very least doing something good for humanity. But willingly turning people into vampires for your own gain, it's no different than sending young men to die on the battlefield. At the very least, they get to keep their humanity, right? So there's an argument to be made on why it's a good plan and why it's a bad plan. You could argue only 100 men will need to ever become this monster, but at the same time, we know that they are a ruckus to general civilians and that they sometimes can't differentiate between normal humans and vampires. So even if it was perfect, it's one of those things that sure you could recruit people based on like, hey, do you want to be this? But is it right? It's one of those interesting questions that I really enjoyed, and it'll be interesting to see what Maeda's going to do because I think with Yamagami's death, it almost feels to me like that's going to mean that he won't become the last perfect piece of the puzzle. And if that's the case, will his mission be to destroy this and just to let the world become what it's going to be with normal human military might, right? Mars Red is without a doubt a slow burn show. It's something that eases you in. It has a theatrical feel to it. That it's like a play. It's a script being read off of actors on a stage. But it does have so much happening, and sometimes the pacing can actually feel a bit fast. Like, holy shit, we're really getting through some of the content, like the first half of the episode. But then when it takes it slow in the second half, it almost feels like that's the formula. The first half feels pretty fast-paced, even though nothing really explosive's happening, it feels like we're really moving the ball forward. And then the last little bit is like, holy shit, we're screeching to a halt and there's a lot of drama occurring. And for me personally, I really enjoy that. Like, we're 6 weeks into this 13 episode series. It feels like this will be a one season and that's all it needs, 13 episodes to tell what it wants to tell. It feels like this is the midway point, the natural transition to the last section. The first half was building the team, and now we see what the team really is. The second half is probably going to be to destroy said team. And it'll be fascinating to see what's going to happen, because a character like this lieutenant who frightens me but kind of inspires me all at the same time, I don't know what we should really do, because logically what he's making could be perfect, but it's just going to end up creating a system where we're going to have 100 immortals wandering the streets killing innocent civilians, right? That feels like what we're going to have happen. We see what a general vampire can do to a city at night. Like, what is this division going to do if civilians get caught up? What if a civilian tries to protect their loved one who turned into a vampire, right? They're just going to kill without discrimination. I don't know, it's one of those things where it's so fascinating watching characters like Kursu, a vampire, have more humanity than you could maybe even argue a lieutenant who is pure human. It's one of those episodes, right? It's one of those episodes that gets you thinking about the future but appreciating the present all at the same time. And I mean, the music is still, I think, one of the stars of this production to just really capture that complex atmosphere. The more somber pieces, I mean, getting the confirmation that Maeda's wife-to-be was actually the daughter of this man, and how, wow, I mean, it makes so much more sense why she wants him to stop him, because at first I was kind of questioning the letter, like, why would she want him to stop him? Like, what is their connection? Oh, they're actually father and daughter. Now things are coming even more crystal clear. The girl from episode 1 and just everything, it's just building into this nice laid out puzzle, and it's feeling like by the time we reach the end, I wouldn't be surprised if all these characters are dead, but hopefully humanity will have a good progression, right? They'll have a good honest-to-go shot at not being just blood-sucking fiends that sleep in coffins, basically. I mean, who knows, right? We'll see where it goes. I thought this was an emotionally draining episode and very, very compelling through and through, and I'm excited to see what the purpose of the reporter is going to be, because now they're kind of transitioned into a full-blown vampire reporting. And maybe that will be a clever way to expose what's happening behind the scenes in the military. Public reaction will go crazy and they'll say absolutely not, and maybe that will be a way that even the higher-ups in the government who may see the effectiveness of this division will just throw them in the ocean, locked up in chains, saying, the public doesn't want it, we're screwed at this point. That could be a clever way to deal with an impossible immortal threat, right? Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below, your favorite moment, and where do you think it's going to go with next week's episode? If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, share your support, and hit that subscribe button if you're happy new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.